we are moving on to a segment that Trevor and I like to call the Wrestling Spotlight. So, this is a segment every week where Trevor he acknowledges some of the best wrestlers and things in wrestling that are going on or that have happened that he likes to bring attention to. So, Trevor, what do you got for us this week?
Got a good one for you this week, man. Got a good one. Got a good one. So this week, today's spotlight, we're gonna dive into the world of ultra-violent wrestling. More specifically, CZW. Um, I'm sure most of our wow, that's a picture. I'm sure most of our watchers are, familiar with this particular brand of violence. But we're not going to spotlight the company. No, we're just going to spotlight what they've created, which is the Tournament of Death. So August 31st, 2002, Lord, 2002 was the time where everyone got their first glimpse of this bloody, but of this hellacious tournament, in which a light tube to the forehead is a gift, and laying in a pool of blood, of your own blood, is sickly satisfying. Zandig's Ultraviolet Tournament of Death, which is what was the original name, is a mostly it's kind of like, if you've never seen it before, it's kind of like King of the Ring. It's a single elimination style match tournament setup. It's a King of the Ring with blood. Shut up. Anyway, it's a single elimination tournament. Most of the matches are tournament matches. In later years they set up where they had like special matches. Like this particular one, the very first one, was set up with the storyline. John Zandig was competing against DJ Hyde for his company and a bunch of other stuff. So those weren't tournament matches, but mostly they do tournament play. So and it's a spectacle. I mean, the first year of this bloody spectacle was a showcase for a lot of the local indie stars, and for some trying to make the name for themselves. Names include Sanjay Dutt, Necro Butcher, for those in the indie scene who know who he is, and Ruckus, just to name a few this time. With the smoke clearing and controversy rising, the Tournament of Death became an annual thing, with most stars taking interest in the lost art of the death match. But because at this point, death matches happened, but weren't highly publicized. So this is what I'm thinking. Like early early 2000s, death matches happened again, like I said, but they weren't as publicized as this, and they weren't this extreme exactly. So they brought it back, and it came out of everything. The rise and fame of their resident psychopath, Nick Gage, who was there for his tenure. He started with CCW. He was actually one of the people that was trained out of Zandig's training facility, and also helped launch the Tournament of Death. It was part of his idea, actually. Surprise. As the success grew, so did the violence. Some of the notable matches include barbed wire board matches, light tubes on the ropes, when they use their light tubes and ropes, and one of my favorites, and whatever weapon you can find in the back match. This is honestly true. This was an actual match between DJ Hyde and I forget who else, and the stipulation was you had to find this weapon in the back to use it. As more people showed interest in these gruesome matches, it seemed like Delaware was getting a little cramped. So they took their violence overseas. In 2010, while CCW was in full swing and the Tournament of Death was hot, with DJ Hyde as the new owner, CZW took his unique brand of violence to Germany with a cast of superstars that would make any indie promoter jealous. Omer, just listen to the superstars they had at this time: Drew Gulak, Adam Cole, John Moxley, Zack Sabre Jr., and of course the late great Danny Havoc. With this event, CCW helped cement their legacy in wrestling history for years to come, and helped spawn some very successful superstars in the process. with all the controversy and negative views people have about violent wrestling, the Tournament of Death still has a huge following and has taken its spot in this week's wrestling spotlight. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So we talked about you doing this. You even asked me like, is it cool if I do an event and not a person? I was like, yeah, do me, yeah, play your music your way, right? The fact you
Do you
chose
like
this,
it?
I liked it. I learned some things from it. And by the way, don't you love how I made it all red? Like there's like,
Yes.
so it looks like spattered blood
Oh.
behind Nick Gage and everywhere.
I actually
But
saw this match here too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you were there. We're gonna
Yeah,
find you in the background of one of these videos one day. But
you are. Trust me.
so again, I have to ask you, how did you get into deathmatch wrestling? Because that's something I've always wondered.
And I thought that's what you were gonna. And I actually was gonna explain it. So it's kind of weird. So, see, ECW. When ECW came out, I remember hearing about it, right? But I don't remember really watching it at the time. Um, One of my buddies, I was big into WWF at the time, and huge on WWF. My brother got me into WCW. There were times where you would be able to watch Chikara certain times, and that was a Japanese promotion back in the day. Um, and even before all that, I watched Texas Southern. But so I remember being at one of my friends' house, and we were talking about wrestling. He was like, "Yo, have you heard of ECW?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "No, I've never heard. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is." He popped in a tape because back then, the ECW you could buy just like a RH you could buy the DVDs. They didn't show them on TV a lot, so And so we watched. I believe it was Psycho Sid power bombing someone through like pretty much a mountain of tables. And then I also saw Bam Bigelow, we was talking about earlier. And I'm watching this. I was like, yo, this is sick. This is crazy. This is like, why would people do this, right? Fast forward. I'm in high school. My buddy's in wrestling. I'm like at 10th grade, 11th grade, buddies in wrestling, and we start backyard wrestling, right? And like I learned to take a couple bumps and things like that. And then one day we were having a match, and I took a chair shot to the back, to the my back and the back of my head area, and like it wasn't my head, it was like my back, kind of like I don't know if the chair cut it, whatever, but it started gushing, and like right then and there was like I was like, oh, this is stupid, but it's fun, and then I started watching CZW, and I just got a taste of it, and like I I can't say that I originally liked it because I originally didn't. I thought it was sick, but I took I guess a admiration to it because like as sick as it is, it's kind of it's sickly beautiful because it's an art form, right? Is there and to a degree, it's part of wrestling, and it's kind of an art form because they're expressing themselves in different ways. Yes, they're trying to kill each other, but they're expressing each other in different ways. So I took it as a different style of wrestling and kind of fell in love with it. And it didn't hurt that Danny Havoc and Scotty Vortex are two of my favorite indie wrestlers. So, and Nick Gage.
I was gonna say something about you calling this beautiful, but since he basically stole the words out of my mouth, saying, "quote Trevor a psychopath too,"
Yeah, probably.
hey, we're all a little crazy. Speaking of psychopaths, John Moxley.
Oh yeah,
But
there is, and that's early John. That's early Moxley.
That's Mox. So I knew we were gonna talk about this, and then every time we talk about it, I always here's the thing. It's not always my cup of tea. Like because here's the thing. I like death matches in the past, right? Like FMW death matches and the ones with Funk and Foley and all of them. They were great. They were great because along with the high stakes, along with the maiming, there was a story being told. There was a
Right.
story legitimately being told. There was gripping drama, and you use the weapons and the blood and everything to enhance that. That's what wrestling is. for me, and again, this is just me, what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like, what I prefer, what I think. I think that a lot of times, from what I've seen, I've since watched some deathmatch wrestling. I have not watched a full Tournament of Death, which I think that's gonna be like me
I don't
reacting
think I don't
to
think
a
you can sit through a full tournament.
I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna try to one day. We're gonna rip a DVD one day and then put it on Patreon and see what happens. But so okay. Anyway, what I was saying was I've always thought that what some companies who have these deathmatch tournaments do is they bring in people who bring up violence for the sake of violence and
Right,
solely violence,
right.
and that's as a wrestling fan, I can't get behind that because there has to be a reason for it. Again, it goes back to like not everything has to be. If this was like one or two matches on the card that were just violent for the sake of violence, all right, fair enough. But my problem with it is it ups the ante so much when everyone is doing it, and
Hmm.
when that it becomes one of those things where everyone has to outdo what everyone else is doing, and then it just gets to a point. What's the point of no return?
Right.
That's my worry. That's my worry. And again, I'm not saying like these people go out there intentionally wanting to kill people. That's not what I'm
Oh no,
saying.
no, yeah,
And
and I
it,
get where you're coming from. Though.
yeah, for me, and the last thing I'll say before I let you kind of take the reins again is what I don't want to have happen is like what happened to Nick Gage. He went too far. We know the mentality of people in sports, the mentality of people in wrestling goes too far, almost dies, literally dies. Like I don't want to see people die
Seven
in the ring
minutes.
because it's not worth it. Even the best death match in the world, is it worth having some bumps and bruises, some scarring, some bleeding, some even a broken rib or whatever? Yeah, it can be worth it, or it's something that happens, right? But when you're talking about literally life and death, it's and the risk is higher. Like I those are things I don't like to see because we want the business to thrive. We want the people in the business to thrive. We want to see people entertain us and live long lives. That should be the goal, or live fulfilling lives. And so for me, it's a bit of a catch-22. I don't know.
And no, and I totally agree. Like the thing is, so like I said before, tournament of death, it has the tournament matches, right? And the 9 times out of 10, they'll have matches in between that are like confrontation matches, just normal matches. Like even this particular one that you're showing right now, there was a match for the CZW World Title, and it was a couple tag team matches that were not death matches. They used no weapons at all, and there were some of the better matches, honestly. And like early on in Tournament of Death, you saw some drama play out. Now, when Nick Gage got cut, when Nick Gage on that
God
was
damn.
I'm just knocking shit over. When he almost died, like what you saw was it was a feud that came between him and Thumbtack Jack, and I know the name, right? Thumbtack Jack.
Thumbtack Jack.
And the match was supposed to culminate in one in the feud or whatever, tell a story. And unfortunately, the light tube was had broke too early and hit him in his armpit, and he did die for like 7 8 minutes. And it's a shame when you see stuff like that. You know what I mean? A, a a death match can be fun to watch and it can tell a great story. But you do have guys, and then you see a lot of matches. Sadly, some matches in game changer wrestling where that's just the case, and that's to me, that's when it's too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think it's about like when you're doing death matches though, it's like that line, it's never defined. Like it is
No,
just so blur. It's so
it's
much
because
more
it's so
blurred.
shaded, it's so blurred. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, like again, it's like it's one of those things where like, who am I to say what is right and what is wrong? But one thing I will say is that if you're gonna do it, it needs to be for a purpose. Like you need to have a purpose. You need to get people over. I don't, and I sound like Cornette. I feel like when I say this is
you
like
do, but you're not shitting on it like Cornette did.
no.
You're not
Again,
completely
it's not
shitting.
my cup of tea. But I see like I see the need, or not the need, but like the attraction it provides because it's just huge spectacle. It might not have storyline, but it's spectacle. Like look at New Jack. His whole thing, like New Jack was fully spectacle. He
Yeah,
didn't
completely.
like it
I
was
don't think
fully
he had a
spectacle.
storyline in his entire career.
No, his storyline is I'm going to murder you, and then he would come backstage and say I'm going to murder you, and
Right.
but that was his thing. But he was also one guy. ECW as a whole, they did a good job of making things matter. Like
They
when
did.
you would. And look, they did a lot of stuff that was dangerous, but at the end of the day, it was based in storyline. It was based in the idea of getting people over and telling the story, which is what Paul Heyman did. I can I say the same for DJ Hyde?
No, because
No.
first of all, DJ Hyde is probably one of the worst promoters possible. I mean, Zandig wasn't great either, but he was.
Oh my God! Did you hear that story? Did you hear that story that the Dark Side of the Ring guys told Renee Paquette on her podcast about Zandig?
No, I didn't.
So here's the thing. So the Dark Side of the Ring guys, when they were doing the Nick Gage documentary, when they were filming it, they went out to interview John Zandig, and they get to his house, and they're a little late because they had car trouble or something, and getting an interview with Zandig was like really difficult because he's a very he's not he's a very very cranky guy. He's a cranky guy. Please don't hurt me, by the way. But allegedly, cranky guy. But so they get to his house and they just see this big ass like Trump flag, and immediately, John Zandig was the guy who was like the co-promoter of CZW, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, then it is John Zandig. So
He actually helped start CZW.
Yeah. So it is him because it wasn't DJ Hyde. It was Zandig. The name sounds familiar. Anyway, so they see this big ass Trump flag in this yard, and immediately, like the Dark Side of the Ring, like it's the two interviewers, the two producers. They're just like, oh well, this is gonna be interesting. And then they knock on the door. They get in the house. Zandig opens and it's like, you guys fucked up, buddy. You done fucked up. And he just like started berating them for being late. And he's like, we're not doing this. And immediately they just turn around like, yeah, we're not safe here. We're just leaving.
Right.
So they just leave. I mean, documentary turned out great, but yeah, Zandig is quite an interesting character.
Yeah, everyone involved in that is actually quite an interesting guy.
I wonder, is the event catered? Is CZW Tournament of Death catered? Like do they have food there? Man, DJ Hyde's parents, they might have, bro. I'd be like, yeah, son, I'm gonna set up like shop and sell some goddamn sandwiches. You're gonna mess up my backyard.
It would make sense. Like it would literally make sense. Shit, the entire like bottom half of their parents' house was set up for like dressing room and all that other shit. That's the entire bottom half of the house. It's a huge ass house, by the way, and the backyard is humongous.
Mama and Papa Hyde, if you can hear the sound of my voice, next Tournament of Death, set up like a little lemonade stand, a sandwich shop, something. It's your property. Corner the goddamn market. There we go. Just do it. You'll make bank. Like these are a bunch of
1,000 people on that property.
There's a bunch of sweaty, hungry men. Sell them some sandwiches. You can make bank. You could charge $6 for a grilled cheese, $10 for a grilled cheese, however much you want, and they'd buy it. I promise you.
I mean, they would, because shit, I was hot, hungry. I mean, and I always wondered. They never really came out and talked about it, but I wonder how they felt that Nick pretty much died in their backyard.
Imagine DJ Hyde going back in the house after that. It's just like, hey mom, hey dad, and it's just like, oh hey son, how did your little tournament go? So yeah, somebody died. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.